it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Justified, Season 5, Episode 7, Raw Deal. And I know this is kind of a late review. That is because I had a very long rehearsal today for my musical, because I am in my school musical. So the rehearsal ran very long today, and I didn't get the chance to do this review till now. But I'm just going to say right now, this was my favorite episode of the season. Everything was really interesting in this episode. We really have some really interesting directions for the characters to go. And we all definitely got the best end scene of any episode in this season. Definitely the best end scene of any episode was in this episode. Definitely that's one of the best parts of the episode. So let's just get to the episode. And I think the first thing, of course, I want to talk about is Raylan. I really, his plot was definitely very interesting. It was very big to see what's going on there. And it definitely got very, very intense, especially regarding with Art. Him and Raylan are not really getting along very well at all. But I really like the direction that this went in. So Raylan's drinking coffee when a complainer comes in about reward money. Art is punishing him with early arrival and handling walk-ins. The guy wants backgammon money, and Mr. Falafel is an online backgammon guru and says they took his money when they did because Charles Monroe owned the site, and Raylan pulls it up and shows him they misspelled Marshall Service on the website and that he was lied to and his money taken, and Rachel chews Raylan out for letting the guy leave, and he makes excuses, and she asks Tim why he didn't tell him he was on walk-ins. They decide the backgammon's company web guy probably stole the money and put up the fake page, and Tim says he prefers cribbage. So TC and his girl play a video game when new client shows up. It's a big guy, Kemp, and he has Larry, the backgammon guy, with him. TC goes for a taser and Kemp grabs him. Larry demands the money before he gets hurt. They hold a gun to the girl. I mean, this was really intense. I mean, this was a girl, probably his girlfriend, and they held it to her head, basically, and she admits that he stole it, and Larry says he owes him $250K, and he dials the cops to it out of him, and Kemp decides he wants more and shoots Larry right through his smartphone in school. I mean, that was huge right there. I was like, this is definitely getting intense. So Kemp tells TC he has to hand over the money, but he explains it's in Bitcoins and it will take some time. And, that's definitely pretty big. But before this, we did get something interesting with Allison. Allison, the very big plot in the episode, she kind of had this thing with Wendy. We saw that Wendy, how I said Wendy is the only normal one in the Crow family? I take back what I said, because Wendy is no longer normal. Because Wendy is just as crazy as all of them, if not the craziest, because she actually is basically infatuated with Raylan. She wants to know, she asks Allison what turns Raylan on, and, Allison is pissed at her for saying that, and, she thinks she was distracting her from the fact she was caught coming out of her office, and Wendy says she was only there to talk to her boss, which is huge. I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen there. I thought that was definitely very big, but, that was pretty big. So then we get TC, and we get probably the silliest scene of the episode, because TC's there, he drags Candace out, says he's got 8 hours before he starts cutting parts off. They walked right past Raylan, but Raylan pushes his way in. He asks about the backgammon site, and TC, he literally runs out and jumps out the Sodo and shimmies down the flagpole, then flips Raylan off and runs away. So Raylan just got away from him, and then he sees blood and finds Larry's body in the tub, and he's like, well, shit. And that was definitely really funny, I thought. I'm like, okay, I really like the way they do comic relief on this show. I think that's really great. And that was definitely probably the funniest scene of the episode, because, I mean, Tim is laughing at Raylan for losing this guy, and we know we now know he's one-legged, which was a pretty good surprise. I like that they did that. It's not really something we've seen before. But TC also put a new message on the website saying he made Raylan his bitch. They won't let him go on the hunt, and Rachel tells him follow up with a guy upstairs. And Raylan decides to reply to the message saying he'll get him later. And then Allison calls and tells him she got suspended because of Wendy Crow. Wendy actually suspended her. And, this was pretty big. Because Allison then tells Raylan that Wendy dug up every skeleton in her past to get her suspended, and Raylan said he'd like a 2-week suspension, and Allison tells him Wendy also has her eye on him, and then we had a pretty big thing, is that when Raylan, he's in a restaurant with Allison on a date, and he goes to give them the credit card, his credit card is actually declined, and the service says she has to destroy his card, and his phone rings and it's TC, who basically tells him that deputy dipshit who tells him he got his card blocked and drained his bank accounts. He tells Raylan to leave him alone if he wants his money back, and Raylan threatens him. Tim has a computer guy that traced the call, and Raylan is on the way to get him. So Kendall tried to talk to her, but she blows him off and heads back to Lexington. He yells at a guy trying to steal whiskey. He sends the guy packing and calls his Uncle Jack. He asks if he's living near Kentucky. And that was a pretty big thing, because, I mean, Kendall was trying to stop Wendy, but it did not work. So Ken tells Candace he wants bones. She says it's lame. There's a knock at the door. It's the marshals. Turns out TC led them there. Raylan's upset, says that TC is the only reason he came. And Tim talks to Chris, the PC guy, and says TC spooked the phone. And Candace tells them she knows where TC is. He's in his grandma's basement, where when Raylan and Tim find him, he hops over, grabs his leg, surrenders. And Raylan asks how he lost his leg, and he says it's actually from cancer. He tells them he won all the stuff from calls and contests and offers to teach Raylan how to be caller number 7. So Rachel tells him that revoking Daryl's parole is a no-go because Wendy raised a stink, and Raylan goes in to ask if he's always going to get the silent treatment. And this was a pretty big scene with Art. You know, he goes in and says, am I always going to be put on shit duty? And he wants Art to give him something better. He doesn't want to do the same stuff anymore. And Art tells him, hey, I can transfer you back to Florida. And Raylan's like, oh, no, I'm going wherever I want to go. So clearly they have a lot of friction going on between the two of them, and I don't really know if this is going to get resolved very soon. I don't think it will. I think they're going to probably be like this for the rest of the series. I mean, I really would not be surprised if they were like this for the rest of the show, because I think definitely, I think definitely this is not going to be a good thing for them. But I kind of like the direction that this is heading, though. I kind of do like that. So, that was basically, Raylan's plot. And the very last scene is, he has a drink with Wendy. They trade insults about kids. He says he knows she's faking being a lawyer. She tells him about his abuse of power is sexy. He asks her to help her get Daryl and says it will make all their lives better. He tells her Daryl killed Dewey, and she's shocked. She invited him up to her room and tells her to think about his offer. And he asks her to pay for his drinks because his card is canceled. So his card is canceled, and, yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. But that's basically, that was basically Raylan's plot. I thought his plot was very strong, but definitely the best part of this episode was Boyd's plot, because Boyd's plot is focusing on the job. As we know, the job is to kill Johnny. That's the job. And the Crows are packing up for the job. They tell the kid to watch out for Chelsea while they're gone, and they're at the jail. So Boyd does not find Johnny. He says they need to go to Mexico and get his heroin. He looks at the Crows where they're thinking to take them. So we're not really sure why, what's going on there. So what happens is the thugs bring Boyd to actually, so what happens is, Boyd is actually, Johnny calls his buddy back in Harlan. They're trying to get rid of Hot Rod's bank account. They are having no luck. Johnny says he'll be back tomorrow. He meets with the Carl guy who asks where Boyd is, and he says there's instead of Boyd strapped in him, he hops in with them, but has to leave his muscle behind. And the thugs bring Boyd to Mr. Eaton's house. So Johnny's already there. They leave the cousins to wait together, and Johnny asks how Memphis was and how much money he brought. Yoon comes in, tells him it's a first. He asks for 5 minutes to deal with Johnny, and Yoon says he promised him $1 million, and Boyd says he doesn't have it. Yoon zip-ties him both and says whoever has the most money wins, and he leaves them. So then what happens is a guy shows up with Johnny's cash, and Yoon says Jay gets the business and Boyd to do what he wants as long as he kills him somewhere else. So at this point, it looks like, it's really bad for Boyd. It looks like Boyd is about to be killed. Johnny gets ready to get rid of Boyd. We knew Boyd wasn't going to die, obviously. I mean, Boyd is the best character on the show. If they kill off Boyd, it'd be a huge thing. And he first wants to show him how his stash in the trunk. They pop open and it's full of crows with guns. Basically what we find out is that basically everyone just set Johnny up. Every single person, every single person on the show was definitely, every single person that Johnny was working him completely betrayed him. And it turns out Yoon and Boyd also set Johnny up, and they offer Hot Rod's former crew their old jobs back. And they all agree. Boyd tells Johnny that if you can't lead and refuse to follow, you die alone in the desert. They're going to kill him elsewhere, but then Daryl flips out and shoots Hot Rod's guys, and this is not a good thing because they just tried to make a business opportunity with them. That didn't work. Johnny mocks him, says he won't get the drugs out of Mexico, and at this point I'm just like, Boyd, kill him, kill him, kill him, because I wanted Boyd to kill him. I wanted to see how awesome it would be, and Boyd actually does kill him, and he calls Yoon to tell him they have a problem. That was by far the best ending of any episode of the show, because Johnny is dead. Boyd's biggest threat on the show, Johnny is now dead. Which is a pretty big thing, because, Johnny and Boyd were working together, but now they're complete enemies, and he needed to kill him. I was definitely happy that he killed him, because it moves a lot forward with the show, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where the show goes from here. But that was completely amazing. I absolutely loved where that went, and I love that so much. It was so good. That scene right there was just so intense, and I loved it. And the final thing we have to talk about is Ava. Now, Ava's plot, it's not much, but I gotta say, Ava's plot is not the most interesting, but I do like how we're kind of seeing a more vulnerable side of her. She's watching Gretchen, her new buddy Penny tells her that her visitor isn't coming and she needs to rely on the Heavenly Mother. And Ava says no, thanks to God, and Penny says it could keep her alive. So what ends up happening is Ava watches the prayer meeting, Judith approaches, and afterward, Ava says she doesn't need God, and Judith says it's easy when you can rely on your looks, and Judith asks if she wants protection. And basically the whole thing that's basically going on with Ava in this episode is that Ava has basically lost all hope. It's really sad, honestly. She's lost a lot of hope, and you can definitely see a more vulnerable side of her. But Penny does introduce Ava to Vernon. Now, it's a guard that comes in now. As we know, Ava has not had very good experiences with guards. The last one tried to rape her and got her sent here in the first place. And he says hi. So it turns out you have to service the guard who looks the other way, and Ava takes the drugs and goes. And that was a pretty big thing, but she actually doesn't take the drugs. She throws them in a trash can because Ava doesn't do drugs. That's the one thing she will not do, is she will not do drugs. I also kind of like her new haircut. It's showing the much more vulnerable side of her. So Judith tells Ava that Vernon got caught with drugs. Ava planted it. Judith is worried that the prisoners will revolt if they found out that their source is gone. Ava says she can help get some in, and Judith shows her some scars and says Ava says she has some of her own. Judith tells her she hopes she didn't get him busted just to keep from screwing a guard, and Judith walks off, and Penny tells Ava if she can get the dope, she has a way to get it in. So that was basically the episode, and I gotta say, this was by far the best episode of this season. Definitely a lot of things changed in this episode. One, we got a lot more tension between Raylan and Art now. That fight scene in the beginning of the last episode was an indication that was not going to be good between them, but now it's really, really, really bad because Raylan literally just told Art, I don't want to do what you want me to do. I'm going to do what I want myself to do. That's basically what he said. He said, I want to do what's good for myself, and I want to see my kid, things like that. I thought, what's going to happen with Wendy as well? I think the Wendy stuff is very interesting, and I never thought this woman was as crazy as she was. She's complete batshit crazy if you think about it. She, not only did she get Allison fired, but she thinks that she actually has a future with Raylan. It's actually a pretty big thing, and was very surprised about that whole thing. I thought it was a very good surprise, though, because I really like tension on the show. And now Boyd has just killed Johnny, so what's going to happen next? Is everyone going to rely with Boyd? They just killed Hot Rod's guards, and Boyd needs people to sell his drugs, so who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? We don't really know. And he still has to try to free Ava, so we don't know what's going on there. And again, he's completely focused on freeing Ava and doesn't really care what happens to himself. He was fine with just getting killed. He was completely fine with that. Also, Ava, do you think Ava might get out of prison? I don't know. Maybe this new thing that she's doing might actually lead her to get out. I really don't know. But that's it for my review. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.